All right, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Truth Time on the Truth Wire. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jardula, and my co-host is here as soon as Jamie brings her on in.
Hi.
Fiorella Isabel on the ones and twos. How you doing today, Fiorella?
I'm definitely not on the ones and twos, but
So you don't know ones and twos, but our guest knows about the ones and twos because where the ones and twos originated was back in the days. It was the Technique 1200s. It was the old school hip hop. For all you out there, ladies and gentlemen, who do watch my show you can't watch my show, but listen to my show on WBAI in New York every Wednesday from 4 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. We do an hour of call-in shows, and for the topic of the day. But we introduce the show every month. We've been switching with an old school hip hop song that I use for my intro. So the first month for January, we did Pete Rock and CL Smooth, Reminisce. And this last month, fam, and you're a little bit too old to know these songs, but I know our guests will know them. It's Don't Sweat the Techniques by Eric B. and Rakim. And then we also point out the fact that they're from parts of New York, and we encourage people from that part of New York to call in. What were you saying, fam?
You said I'm a little too old to know these songs.
You're not old enough to know these songs. But listen, we have a heart out with our guest. He is one of my favorite investigative journalists. He's a guy I know is crazily shadow banned. He's created this independent alliance out there. These people were laughed upon years and years ago. Remember the conspiracy theory meme? They say me highlighting everything in my book that came true, and the whole book is highlighted. Well, one of those guys, you might call him a truther, but he's always seeking the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, Derrick Broze is here today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Nice to see you. Pasta.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yes.
You can start it out because I have a lot of questions too.
I was waiting for Derrick to thank me for that awesome intro because I know he doesn't get intros like that all the time. Everybody just
I appreciate the intro, brother. I wanted to add real quick, just because you mentioned the Independent Media Alliance. I'd love to have you guys join one of our panels. Right now the main thing we're doing is having occasional Independent Media Alliance panels with the rotating cast of people focused on a wide variety of topics. I think the next one we're focusing on is going to be on Syria and just the changes and all the shifting conversation around that. And so we try to just check in periodically while we're working with the Odyssey platform, building us a website and a censorship proof platform. But, it was never intended to be just left, right, libertarian, whatever you want to say. Like, we really just started looking around, like, who actually still has some common sense and hasn't lost their mind in the Trump years or the Biden years, and actually is a principled, consistent person, not only in themselves but in their reporting. And I would definitely place you guys in that category.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for that.
That's awesome. Really, to tell you the truth, I mean, I've always looked at myself as part of the alliance anyways. I think everybody has a role when it comes to independent media. And obviously with my new show, independent media, truth telling, whatever you want to, I don't even know what you call it today, and we'll get into that. But I've always looked upon, and me and Steve talked about this when I left the AM Wake Up show. It was a brown belt, black belt show. I remember showing my mom one of the episodes that you came on, and so many things went over her head. It's like you had you do your homework before you got there. I always wanted to be like that kind of vessel that took the information from you and T-Lab and Whitney and Steve and Catherine Austin Fitz. Oh my God, some of the information she's come up with, and kind of, take that and put it out there in a digestible way for the everyday person out there. You know what I'm saying? The people who are getting all their information and getting hypnotized by, the Tucker Carlsons and the Steve Bannons and all those people that they see on the boob tube with their remote control. So thank you so much. It's an honor for you to say that. I really do mean that. You guys are amazing. But let's dive into what you guys do and what you talk about, because I think there's a lot of things that are going on right now. A lot of us saw it coming. I didn't look at Donald Trump as the lesser of two evils. That was the argument that a lot of people sold, and people that I expected to know better, right? That we would honestly say what's in front of us is not a two-party system. It's a one-party mechanism moving together, complementing each other, handing off the baton one issue at a time to another. With Donald Trump, I think you pointed out a lot of the spyware that will be coming in. And you want to talk about, just completely destroying our Fourth Amendment rights. The fact that Pegasus is back out there now again. I mean, even Biden's lawyers and his administration said, no, we shouldn't use that. That's going way over the top. And they put it in a warehouse. Well, Donald Trump comes in We have the Stargate program that you've been talking about for quite some time. We now have Pegasus running loose. Fourth Amendment rights are out the door. He's pushed Mike Johnson for the FISA Act 702. I mean, all these things are happening, but there seems to be this alternative mainstream media, which we used to call the independent media, that's somehow echoing a lot of what they're trying to accomplish, that being the ruling class. Can you provide a little information about what we see in front of us when we look at social media, when we see some of these characters that are very much in question, Russell Brand, Ian Carroll? We have up a poll up there and stuff, because I think a lot of people go, oh, you're just jealous of their numbers. Can you give us a little insight to exactly what we're seeing and what they're actually trying to accomplish?
Yeah, sure. So a lot to unpack there. I'll just pick up again with the reason we started. Myself, Ryan, and Whitney Webb started the Independent Media Alliance. It was, I think, in October when we announced it. And we had been having some private conversations prior to the public announcement. Really just, obviously, we were getting closer to the election, and we could see, as you were pointing out there, so many people who should know better starting to make the old lesser of two evils arguments, or just, various, I would say, unprincipled arguments for supporting Trump, or just even for getting into that debate of Kamala versus Trump. And we also could see that there seemed to be a coordinated, or we believe there was going to be a coordinated attack against not just the three of us, but those who are taking these kinds of principled and I think truthful stances, namely with this label of being black-pilled. You're just negative, like you said, or you're just jealous, or whatever, these sort of things, which are all, in my mind, very childish, but they seem to be very effective, because I've been called black-pilled more than I ever have in the last 15 years, in the last 6 months. And I think it's just, it's been an effective strategy. So we started just talking like, okay, if the quote unquote other side seems to be coordinated in some fashion, we don't exactly know, as I was saying to you before, Pasta, that we don't know exactly, have a document that says, hey, these names are all working together for the intelligence agencies or something like that. But there is some good research. I would point to Amazing Polly, who I've had my issues with her, but she's done some great research on sort of outlining this new network that is formed. Many of them are sponsored by the Wellness Company. Many of them are tied to Rumble. And there's a whole web that you can see. Again, that doesn't mean they're all paid intelligence agents or anything of that sort, but there does seem to be coordination between their messaging. And there's nothing illegal or wrong about that necessarily, but we sort of thought, okay, well, if that group of people who are claiming to be independent media and are Trump supporting, or at least are clearly pulling their audience in that direction and towards RFK, Musk, etc., Peter Thiel, then perhaps us on our side of things should get a bit more coordinated. And that was really the initial impetus for why we made this announcement. And then we started to just look around at like who has been consistent, and who we focused in the beginning on three main issues: who didn't fall for COVID, and not really saying like this has to be the one right theory, but just in general, people who are skeptical, who are questioning of the narratives being fed to us, people who have been questioning and critical of Zionism, and people who have been questioning and critical of the two-party system. And so that was kind of our foundational criteria for who we were looking to work with. And we have now had about 5 or 6 panels, independent media panels, with a range of people who fit that criteria. And as I said, we're planning to launch a website and continue to get more coordinated. And I do think that this is a response, actually the term, the mainstream alternative media, as far as I know, David Icke created it. I mean, whatever you feel about David Icke out there, he is somebody who has been consistently calling this stuff out as well, and has been around long enough to see the likes of Alex Jones and many other people who, for all the problems associated with them, and there are problems, they used to be the people saying, hey, the two-party system is a lie, don't fall for this, the false left-right paradigm, it's all about controlling you. And then, of course, in recent years, Alex Jones, I'll name some more names, you named a few, Luke Rutkowski, a lot of the claim to be libertarians, Dave Smith and others seem to have just gone back into that whole machine. And so our efforts really are part of trying to call out this mainstream alternative media. And to me, the way I interpret that term, and again, if you ask all of us, we'll probably put different people under that label, so it's subjective, but just generally speaking, people who claim to be or ostensibly appear to be independent, and I mean independent in terms of funding, like they either just aren't funded by anybody, or they're just totally dependent on their audience for funding. And that could be true as well. But I think there's also some people who are funded by other players as well. Russell Brand, of course, one of the big ones. And they proclaim themselves to be independent, just truth tellers, searching for the facts and this and that. And again, there may be a history of some good work with some of these people in certain areas, but at the end of the day, around election time, they sure did bring everybody back into the two-party system, back into this idea that Trump was the only way to stop the crazy radical left and the progressives, which I think most of us would say, hey, they definitely did lose the plot. And in my view, that was all by design, in order to, not to say that every single progressive was given an order, hey, talk about this, think this, but I think from on top, coming down to the bottom, there definitely was a coordinated effort of pushing so far left and maybe so far on certain issues that the average person couldn't relate to, that then a Trump and the whole MAGA movement could come along and just present themselves as the alternative to that and say, hey, we're common sense. We don't think these crazy things. We're obviously the answer. And so the mainstream alternative media played a major role, I think, in doing that. And, I did have a 2-hour discussion with people like Ian Carroll, and I've had some Twitter discussions and elsewhere with some of these folks. And in some instances, they seem to be genuine. They seem to actually care about the search for truth. But then in other times, particularly with Ian, I'll say that seems to just play this sort of like, I'm just asking questions. I can't tell what's going on here. Whoops. Or let me consider the other perspective. Most recently, I've seen him posting about how somehow Trump's plan for Gaza is actually a good thing, and so he likes to kind of, hold on, guys, just hear me out. I'm just thinking about, alternative perspectives. He's just asking questions, which of course we should ask questions, but I think it's also a sort of cop out in a way to allow him to kind of straddle the fence and not take any strong positions and call out what we obviously can see is not good for the people.
One of the things that makes this very difficult is because you have the mainstream alternative media, and then you have people who sort of are navigating to that sector because it is popular and profitable. It is so popular right now, for example, to talk about the benefits of Trump's USA dismantling and how great it is. But people aren't talking about the timing of it. What is the underlying reason for this happening? Where is it going? How is this happening after? And when you bring up these things, you are called negative or blackpilled, as you said. And it becomes tedious to try to explain things to people because people want an all or nothing. They want black and white. They want red and blue. There's very little nuance. And what it seems like to me is that social media has become a vessel for these type of online grifters that basically just regurgitate the same headlines all the time, but they don't dive deeper into the scenario. And so when you have people like Ian Carroll or others who put things in a perspective that's diplomatic, that seems very logical, and then they sort of pivot at the end, it's very hard to get people to understand that this is all by design. And my question to you is it possible for somebody who came, like, just an example, because he's one of many, right? Ian Carroll, he came in 2023. There's zero anything footprint to that. And like I said, he's not the only one. We're seeing masses of people that are just coming in, using the Palestine issue, making a lot of money off of it, and then pivoting and pushing, say, Trump, or pushing some sort of agenda. Is it possible that somebody can just come in with all the algorithms supposedly against anti-Zionist rhetoric or anti-Zionist stances, with everybody else getting shadow banned, deboosted, censored, taken off YouTube, and then suddenly, and TikTok, and suddenly these people come in and they are amplified by the algorithm. They are amplified by Elon Musk. Is that possible that they could be a genuine person that just happens to, pivot or get amplified by people who genuinely believe in their cause?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Fiorella. I think the most charitable, let's start with the most charitable view and then go to maybe the more, I think, realistic view. So the most charitable view is that Ian is just a regular guy. I know some people tried to dox him recently, and you could find like an old Instagram account from him from a few years ago when he was just going hikes on friends, just typical, young 20, 30 something out with friends, like posting on Instagram. And then, as you said, in 2023, start to put out videos and really just explode on TikTok. That, I'm not even on TikTok, but I was hearing about it and seeing people share videos across platforms. And then Instagram, and of course Twitter, X being the other places he's really exploded on. So the most charitable view is, he just woke up, he is just communicating the message in a very friendly next door neighbor kind of, hey guys, I'm just asking questions, and that's something that really resonates with people. Sure, that there's that possibility. A lot of people have tried to replicate that strategy, I think, of just holding a phone in a shaky way and talking to the camera and just asking questions and putting it out there. That's one possibility, and we'll allow that exists out there. And also what you said, like, sure, it's possible that people's minds change. Of course, that's possible. But I do think it's very, very sketchy and very suspicious. And it's not because I'm jealous, or I don't think anybody here is jealous. Oh, this guy's blowing up bigger than me, and so I'm going to attack him because I'm mad about his numbers. I think we're skeptical and questioning because when you understand the history of U.S. intelligence infiltration, not only social media and everything we learned from Snowden and everything we've learned since then, but going back decades, infiltration of media in general and infiltration of activist spaces, which we know did and does happen. We know that these things happen on social media platforms. And even the Snowden documents talked about the creation of fake accounts on YouTube and all the platforms, and that their goal was to deter, dissuade, disrupt, delay, and essentially drive the conversation in any direction they want to. Yeah. So I do have my suspicions about Ian about that. And we've chatted back and forth, private messages. We had a 2-hour conversation about Trump, which was mostly amicable, but still to me kind of like, how can this guy acknowledge everything I'm saying about Trump and Peter Thiel and all these connections prior to the election and still come away saying, yeah, but I have hope that it's going to turn out the best. And that to me it's one of, it could be multiple things, but one of two things that I lean towards. It's either just a flawed human who wants to believe and still holds out, there's hopium, so I hear everything you're saying, but I'm going to just trust the plan. And surely those people do exist. Or it's something darker, somebody who is purposely leading people astray, despite knowing the facts, despite knowing the questions. And then, as we've seen in the recent weeks since Trump's come into office, when the Zionism is on full display and the technocracy is on full display, Ian's like, oh my God, I can't imagine why this is happening. Who could have guessed that this would happen? That to me is a bit frustrating. And especially, as you said, because so much of the audience is being pulled in that direction. And it's a full-time job to, even outside of just creating our own content and doing our own work, trying to keep up with debunking these people is a full-time job. And I think that if it was an intelligence operation, would absolutely be part of the plan. Like you said, it's difficult to try to reach people when they're like, hey, he's just asking questions, he seems to be reasonable. Every time I post about Ian, including yesterday when he was trying to make excuses for the US taking over Gaza thing, I immediately get just a swarm of some are real people, I'm sure, but definitely bots coming on my page and just attacking. And they're like, oh, we're ratioing people because he ratioed Elon or this, that. So it does make me suspicious. And I also think, just to add to the conversation, people need to have a better understanding of 5th generation warfare. It's just like previous types of warfare. It's just a way that the military and intelligence agencies approach their operations, and they see social media and the internet and our minds as the battlefield. And so we have to be very skeptical of the things that are being put in front of us, narratives that are being placed in front of us, including individuals and people. And I think that's the major danger that I see, is that so many people, it's like they personalize it. Like if I call out Ian, and I'm not saying, hey, Ian looks stupid or Ian has funny hair. I'm just saying the things he's saying aren't correct, or this is inaccurate, and in questioning why he's promoting these ideas. And of course, we could mention others in this whole discussion, that the audience, instead of looking at that information, it's like they personally identify with him and say, why are you attacking him? You're insecure. You're just jealous. You're just mad. Or they just, say mean things to me. It's like they have become attached to him or whoever as an entity, as a being, and they personalize that. And so when you question and attack them, similar to what we see with politicians, they take that as a personal attack, as opposed to actually looking at the data that we're presenting. And I think that's a big problem for sure.
I think there's people out there that are useful idiots, and there are people out there that are paid propagandists. But I think the reason why we even have a friend of ours who's kind of saying, hey, I don't agree with your assessment of going on with Ian and questioning him that he's a Fed. But I think a lot of reasons why people have a hard time getting past this, when you look at just simply biology, it's they don't want to deal with the fact that choice has been taken away, that everything's kind of planned out for us, that they want to believe it. Hey, you know, I do it myself all the time, Derrick, right? I say to myself, okay, why aren't I getting the numbers? I want my message to get out there as many people as possible. I want to have these conversations. What am I doing wrong, right? So I think a lot of times people have a hard time dealing with this, or really kind of being able to put themselves in a position where they can see where we're coming from, to say, hey, there's a danger behind this if we are telling the truth, if we have gotten this right. Because just like in elections, we can only present theories, Derrick. We can't go into the machines, pull out the data and show it to you. We're not allowed to. So we can only present theories. Same thing with you. You don't have what they say, where's that smoking gun? Where's that evidence? But wouldn't you agree that it's because if we can simply just look at the fact that it's choice, we don't want to, some of us don't want to, you know, hand over the fact that we are responsible for our own actions. And, you know, we want to have that choice there, and that's being taken away because somebody else is deciding what's going to be important, what the talking points are.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just to kind of pick up on that thread, for those who say that calling out people, whether we're talking about Ian Carroll, Dave Smith, Russell Brand, and on and on and on, are, you know, it's a waste of time. Or another one I hear often is, you're just being divisive. People are telling me, you should, you know, you guys should come together. You need to work together. And look, I get like camaraderie. Like I said, I'd love to work with you guys and Independent Media Alliance. I'm all about working with allies who are aligned, but I'm not going to work with people who are selling Zionism and who are leading the audience astray. I mean, I think that there are boundaries, there are lines. So when somebody says that to me, I tell them, like, look, I understand your general sentiment here, but where's the line for you? Like, is somebody promoting Zionism and dead Palestinian children, I'm just supposed to ally with them because you believe that they have good intentions? I think that's problematic and dangerous as well. And yeah, I'm with you on, you know, like any, I think, good content creator or journalist, our goal is to reach as many people as possible. I would love the same numbers as Ian or other people, and even more. And I'm working day and night to get there, but I want to do it. And I believe the numbers that I have gained, despite shadow banning and all the things that we know are still happening, despite what some people believe, that I have gained those organically and genuinely by collaborating with other people, by doing good work, by networking, by going to live events. You know, I've been doing this for 15 years now, so I didn't have a come up overnight and people are going to question, and you know, how it happened for me. So I'm grateful for every audience member I have, for every view I get, for every click, for every read of an article, et cetera, et cetera. Because I know it was organic, because I know it was genuine, and it was done by my hard work. And I think, you know, the same thing for you guys. So it can be challenging, though. Of course, we all have egos. We all see the numbers, and it's like, dang, I want that reach. I want my message and my views and interviews that I think are important to reach the millions and the hundreds of millions. And then when we see other people just come up overnight, or people who even say, like Russell Brand, he's been around for quite some time, but he's obviously flip-flopped his whole view and become Christian, allegedly, or Catholic, and Trump supporting, and this and that. And I definitely have suspicions for him. But I will say that my approach has been to, like with Ian Carroll, to try to talk to these people as much as possible, to sort of at least, you know, as they say, give them the rope to hang themselves. Like with Ian, I feel like for anybody who watched that 2-hour conversation, there's nothing in there that I think makes me look bad. I just bring fact after fact, and Ian says, yes, well, but what about this? And tries to find a way to make it make sense. And, you know, you have to sort of take like a QAnon type of mental gymnastics to make the things make sense. But I also did go meet Russell Brand, and I met him last year in person, gave him my book. We talked, we were emailing several times, and I was supposed to go on his show. Same thing even with Jimmy Dore. And right around the time where I was becoming more and more vocal in the election, I stopped hearing back. And same thing with Dave Smith. We met in person at the Libertarian Convention. We were going to do an interview, healthy debate, discussion, etc. And it seemed like, and again, this could just be me being paranoid, it seemed like as I started to really, my focus pre-election was like, I'm going to poke as many holes in the Trump narrative, but also the Kamala narrative as well. I wrote several articles the week before the election, one called 4 Reasons Not to Vote for Kamala Harris, and one called 4 Reasons Not to Vote for Trump. And another article called Election 2024, Zionist Technocrats versus Zionist Technocrats. And right around that time, it seemed like everything went silent. I stopped hearing from Jimmy's team. I stopped hearing from Russell's team, and Dave stopped answering text messages. And maybe they just don't like me. I don't know. Like I said, I try not to read too much into it, but it does make me suspicious of like, why are certain people seem unwilling to acknowledge certain facts about Trump and the whole team around him. And I think it is because, as you mentioned, Fiorella, there's a lot of money in this too. People think that it's like somehow you're going to make money if, because you have TDS and you talk crap about Trump. It's the exact opposite. It is much more profitable to be pro-Trump and to watch your numbers grow and go into Rumble and dive into Gab and that whole ecosystem. Not to say there aren't some people doing some good work, but you could absolutely see people over the last 5 years or so totally embrace those narratives. Again, I'll mention Luke Rukowski and others. And I mention him because he was somebody that I met back in 2011 when I was in the beginning of my activism, that I was inspired by him confronting politicians, putting cameras in their face and stuff. And then to watch him just completely go to like doing 10-minute clickbait videos of red alert, emergency, civil war. That's a whole nother problem in the so-called independent media, people who are just full of hyperbole and getting their audience to be in a fear state of mind. Exactly. Sensational. They're happy to monetize the clicks. And that's why I've been trying to really
tell the
audience. We all got to eat, but some of us
maybe
we feel a little more principled when we're eating. We still
have our morals. You get that fatty tuna, right? The one that costs it says market price. By the way, those are the worst 2 words you want to hear on a first date. But that market price costs a lot of money. You got to get these clicks, baby. I know you got to get out of here, Fee. If you have any last questions for Derrick, my last question was going to be, what's the antidote to fix this online presence? Because I've been saying we need to have some type of law written, bring it to Thomas Massey, a bill that says, hey, they need to have complete transparency online. Elon has to show how he lifts certain voices up and how some get lit down. We have to have an open source system, right? It's a private business, but they are getting protection from the government under Section 230 of the NDAA. If you have any antidotes, please let us know on your way on out, and let everybody know where they can get more Derrick Broze, because Derrick Broze to me is like cowbell. I need more of it. Go ahead, buddy.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate both of you. Sorry, I can't stick around too much longer today, but I would love to come back and continue the dialogue. I wish. I'm kind of skeptical like Fiorella. Like, I doubt that such a bill will pass and, come into reality. But sure, do we need more transparency? Of course. Like, I wish that people could really fathom and understand the networks that are taking place behind the scenes. And I've been doing my part to try to expose them, from the Elon Musk to the Peter Thiels to the Larry Ellisons and all the big technocrats that are now embracing the Trump administration. And just to your point there, one of the major problems that we see with so much of the infrastructure like Doge and all this stuff is that if these big tech companies, which also, by the way, are trying to sort of stake their claim as the new military industrial complex, you have Peter Thiel's companies and some of Musk's and others and OpenAI, who are becoming more and more integrated into the military industrial complex, and they see themselves as the new generation, like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. That's old school. We're the new military industrial complex contractors. And guess what? It's cool now to be part of the military industrial complex, according to them, and they really are convincing a lot of people. So I just hope people will remain skeptical and just remember that a lot of the things you're seeing placed in front of you, especially I would say on Twitter and elsewhere, of course, are put there for a reason, whether that's to make you feel sad, happy, to make you like this person, hate this person. And we've known that for some time, but I do think it's stepped up to a level that we haven't witnessed before. If people want to follow my work, my main website is theconsciousresistance.com. That's where you can find my books, my documentaries, podcast interviews. And actually, I'll just mention briefly my documentary series. It's a 17-part documentary series called The Pyramid of Power.net. We are just about to release the 16th episode on Monday. So if you want to get caught up, I know you mentioned earlier, brother, about like some of the conversations being black and brown belt. Well, this series is specifically meant to help take people from like, I don't really know much, to getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, all completely factual, everything's sourced, annotated. All my references are there. You can find that at thepyramidofpower.net. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Derrick. Come back again soon.
Thank you, Derrick. Appreciate the conversation.
Derrick Broze, ladies and gentlemen. He's awesome. Love that guy. Love that freaking guy. From the first time we had him on AM Wake Up, talking about the Utah pedophilia schemes with the Mormons. Once again, he talks about sourced information, source documentation. It's there. You go to the original, babe. You don't go to screenshots. That's what I'm talking about, fam.
Yeah, I there's so much more to unpack with that. But I want to stay on this topic of, since we're
Yeah.
on the topic
Yeah.
of Ian, because I did a whole thing on him, a whole
Yeah.
thread,
Can we put
and
up the thing first though, family, quickly, and then go on into it, because there is
which
a
thing?
poll there, Jamie. It's the second one,
Oh,
the Gen X girl one, because this is
oh,
something
okay.
important. It says when Israel announced it was spending $150 million on Hasbara in the US,
Hmm.
they were keenly interested in buying social media influencers. In other words, Hasbara, fam, means whitewashing. We've seen some strange posts from social media darlings who were cyber champions of Palestinians. Who do you think is getting paid the most? If you want to make your vote there, Jamie, go ahead and hit one of those, and let's see what the numbers are. If you were going to vote on one of those, that's a good one. That's a good. Go hit it. Click it. Click one. All right. So far, and fam, believe it or not, I voted for Russell Brand. But somebody said Russell Brand is getting completely blackmailed. But his whole shtick that switched so quickly. Ian Carroll is there, Andrew Tate is there, and Lauren Lee, I really don't think is up there too much. But fam, with that being said, and you can see there's almost 1,000 votes. People are looking at the same thing we're looking at. They're seeing these influencers that have these crazy followings. And then all of a sudden they try to do stuff like justify what Donald Trump is doing in Gaza. And before we even get into that, fam, I'm just going to hand this off to you and say this much really quickly. That was the most disgusting thing I've seen in politics in all my life, of my 52 years of being around this freaking planet. What Donald Trump did with Netanyahu on stage, I mean, nobody should be proud that they voted for this man whatsoever or supported that man. That was literally disgusting. Go ahead, fam.
Yeah. So my whole thing with people like Ian Carroll, and I think a lot of people are seeing through it right now. I've been looking at this guy now for a while, and I just don't like paying attention to them because I do feel like, in a way, I'm like wasting my time. There's so much more happening, but I do see them as threats, and he's not the only one. And I've said this before many times. There's a lot of them that made their money off of Palestinian genocide, essentially, saying, hey, follow me for news on Palestine, subscribe to my X for $3.99, whatever the hell it is. And they tend to push Donald Trump coming when it came to the election. So they turned around and started pushing Trump. And then when Donald Trump does something wrong, they pretend they didn't do that. And what I've been seeing is not just these people like Carol, but also journalists kind of getting sucked into this whole USAID thing. And I'm almost finished with my Substack article that will come out. And I did a conversation earlier with Vanessa, and I spoke about, how this is a whole thing. And we'll talk about the USAID thing. But with Ian, there were a lot of points that he made, and he uses this whole way of his whole operation is to sound extremely relatable, right? And fam, first, before I talk about what I said against his approach, I want to play this video by Nico House because and you know what? I'll pause it. I'll pause it in between because it's 6 minutes long, but I do think we need to play it because it encapsulates so much of what we've been talking about.
Trump's recent announcement to finish the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip might have exposed something a little bit more sinister going on behind the scenes, like this weirdo Ian Carroll. Now, we all know Trump got those loyalists who, even if they're on the right side of an issue at a certain point, will flip the moment Trump takes the opposite side, like what Andrew Tate did here, and then block my boy Nick for calling him out for doing so. Basically, Nick calls him out for being a Trump meat writer because Tate said that he's going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt without any logic, without any context or reason as to why we should give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's even more egregious because Andrew Tate has actually been firmly in the pro-Palestine camp and has called out Israel religiously. Now, Tate is the only Trump supporter that came out of nowhere and all of a sudden flipped his stance on Palestine the moment that Trump came out and said that the U.S. has plans to take over the Gaza Strip. It's like my friend Misty says here, it's like a narrative went out to all the major shill accounts and they're following their order. But I gotta be fair, it's not all MAGA people, because this guy, Ian Smith, was extremely critical of Trump's decision, saying that he's not fucking dying for Israel. Comedian and political pundit Dave Smith comes out and says that he cannot overstate how awful this guy's idea is. And yeah, he voted for Trump too. Bro, even Candace Owens, shortly after Trump made this announcement, retweeted something calling out the Israeli lobby's control over the US government and not tweeting out a single word of support after the announcement was made. So not everybody got the script, but I'll tell you who did. This motherfucker right here, Ian Carroll, a person who many would probably say could contribute his success to his pro-Palestine advocacy over the last year or so. And now I'm going to explain to y'all what I meant at the beginning of the video when I said it seems to be a little bit more nefarious than what people think. Like this is something that might have been planned long before any of us were even thinking about Trump coming in and announcing that we're going to take over Gaza. So after consistently calling out the genocide for a little over a year, Trump announces his plan, and Ian all of a sudden is like, you know what? I think ethnic cleansing is actually okay. He puts out a tweet and even a follow-up video saying that, yeah, man, we should definitely send troops to Gaza because that would stabilize the region. And also, this could have huge economic benefits for the United States. And also, I don't see another solution. How else are we going to stop the violence? Maybe Trump's plan isn't that bad. And I'm going to show you how easily that argument is deconstructed. But first, let's deconstruct Ian. Who the fuck is this man? Ian Carroll, who showed up to Twitter in May of 2023 out of nowhere with zero credentials and somehow amassed 1.1 million followers and is religiously promoted by the algorithm, despite previously being on the pro-Palestine side of the argument. And we know being pro-Palestine generally gets you banned, suspended, or both, not boosted. Who is this Ian Carroll that has 1.7 million TikTok followers in a little bit over a year and has a bunch of impersonators also with damn near tens to hundreds of thousands of followers? Like this man is some well-known academic or researcher that everyone has been aware of for decades. Ian Carroll, who showed up out of nowhere in May of 2023, that ended up going on major podcasts immediately like Danny Jones. The dude gets invited to go on to Fox 11 Los Angeles to talk about the P. Diddy scandal. Dude is so present in the algorithm that he's literally getting reposted by Joe Rogan. The Ian Carroll that started his YouTube channel around the same time he got on Twitter has only 830,000 views and only 33 videos, but somehow amassed almost 100,000 subscribers in that short amount of time with almost no viral videos. In case you were curious, that's not how YouTube math works. Not to mention the dude is transparently opportunistic, like when dude had the opposite RFK Jr. experience, saying that RFK was dead to him after RFK's ridiculous comments supporting genocide in Gaza. And he actually even calls RFK a shill and says that's why people aren't voting for him. Only to turn around in March of 2024 to be like, yeah, actually, Kennedy is democracy. And I say the reverse RFK experience because he's the only pro-Palestine supporter that started supporting RFK after he announced his love for genocide. Like, we don't know who Ian Carroll is politically, and we don't know who he is at all before May of 2023. Go ahead, try it. Tell me anything at all about Ian Carroll. Don't worry, I'll wait. In 2025, one of the most popular political pundits on the internet has zero digital footprint from before he was famous, and that's not suspicious to y'all. He's an op. I mean,
what's that, Nico? No, Nico's got the best shoes in the business, fam. He wears, we know this, right? Those red shoes. Remember the first time you came to Cali and we went to the Bernie Sanders
if
iron?
you look at the mustache and the hairdo, the dude looks like CIA Barbie. And not to mention the arguments that he makes now directly contradict the
CIA Barbie. That was funny. So he outlined the flip-flopping, right? The 180 turns back and forth. And you see, I have that documented with multiple people. It's not just Ian. He's just the example of the day. And they're both on the left-ish, and they're also on the right. It's not just the MAGA people, but the MAGA people are more effective, fam, because I think the push right now is to use the people that are anti-establishment and befriend them and turn them into ops, and that's how you're going to get things done, because it's not enough to oppose people anymore. You have to become one of them. And I think that that's what we're seeing here with a lot of this stuff online, because it's not like they're real people that you can see all the time. This is online, and everything you see on social media is in an algorithm, and it's curated to certain people. There are people that I've literally do not follow or have blocked that somehow their blocked tweets appear, or their responses to somebody else appear in my algorithm on X, when people who I follow and I want to look at and hear from don't ever appear, and I have to literally type their name on the search bar to find them.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're getting my insides mad, because this is what I'm saying. Like, these people would just show up in the algorithm. There's been obviously some type of things going on from the inside. And I think that, their main objective, and I think we didn't get to ask Derrick Broze, like, if you had a theory, where does their money originate from? Like, who is the actual cause, the person that's doing the funding? What part of the ruling class is actually putting that money out there? We put up that poll that says the Hasbara, right? So that's talking about the state of Israel, the Zionists paying for people to whitewash what's going on. And that's exactly what Ian Carroll is doing in his latest video. He's whitewashing what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is literally sitting up there talking about ethnic cleansing, talking about justification of a genocide, right? And trying to package in a nice way. Well, Ian Carroll is also doing that almost in the same way that Donald Trump is. He's trying to manufacture consent for wiping out a species and taking them out of their homeland. I mean, it's just like, and Nico pointed out so many good things. On the Rage Against the War Machine event, which Angela McCardle, who's now leaving the Libertarian chair, she once came on a show and said, well, there were people, I'm not going to say who, that were in Rage Against the War Machine last year that don't want to speak in it this year because there are Zionists on the stage. And she should have just said me, Kim. She could have mentioned you. We were very vocal about this, what was going on out there. But Ian Carroll spoke at Rage Against the War Machine, and somebody texted me. He's like, hey, dude, Ian Carroll's on stage using your line. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's saying all wars are bankers' wars. But to me, that wasn't really the highlight of the day. I was like, all right, well, he's using, Smedley Butler stuff. Steve Poitkin would say it often. To me, that was the point of recognition that he then sold Maha as a way of selling MAGA, right? He used that little window, which a lot of people were using around that event. All right, listen, it's a third rail. Everybody's a Zionist, but we got to go ahead and vote for Donald Trump anyways because he is the lesser of two evils. He's going to bring Kennedy on in. And to me, that's when the alarm bells went off for Ian Carroll, that day in particular, because right then and there, he was trying to sell MAGA. And he has had this attitude where he always acts like he questions everything. But at the end of the day, he says, walk through that door, fam. That door right there. And that's what the ruling class wants you to do.
Exactly. Questioning everything up until the very end where he says, go to the establishment, lesser of evils option. That is a very intelligent pivot, and it works with so many people because people are like, but he's calling out Israel and he's done all of this. Why all of a sudden are you just changing? Like, are you going after him for that? Because it's not just for that. It's for a plethora of reasons. And I did outline some of them in this in one of the things I posted. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Essentially, for me, I think that's his role. And I keep saying this because there's so many people, right? But as I said, the deep state talking points are placed at the end. So it's not as obvious. And you have to basically kind of understand what's happening. And he uses these things like, well, look, I'm providing receipts. I'm providing this. I'm providing that. But in reality, when you look at the Israel-Palestine issue, when you look at the Gaza genocide, it's a very simple thing. And there is no criticism towards the way what Donald Trump has said is a lie, because there is no way that the United States, which facilitated the weapons, the bombs, the money to go and wreak havoc on Gaza and do this genocide, is going to care about the protection of Palestinians when they were the ones that benefit from it, just like Israel. Or there's no way to deny that Jared Kushner is Trump's son-in-law, who has been just salivating to create new luxury property in the West Bank and Gaza. This is Donald Trump, who's a real estate mogul. These are facts that you can't get away from. And when Ian Carroll's conclusion on itself is that perhaps U.S. troops would protect Palestinians, one, there's already U.S. troops there. Two, U.S. troops have zero reason to protect them because the U.S. is Israel's biggest ally. Donald Trump pulls the chair for Bibi Netanyahu, for crying out loud. And three, the United States has a type of policy where they exploit a disaster, and that's exactly what they're doing, and it's exactly what we've done throughout the Middle East, and we have never left a country better off when we've come in than it was before. You can look at Libya, you can look at Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, every single point we have touched, especially in West Asia and Africa, in the global South in general, we have left it worse off than before. So there is no actual logic to the things he's posing. What he's doing is he's making it normal. He's normalizing the question of genocide and ethnic cleansing as a thing that maybe you could just, from this perspective, maybe if you could imagine as a businessman, it could be something profitable. And once you normalize and internalize that, then you're thinking like somebody that's willing to accept that this is an okay thing to do. And it's not. And the people who have been questioning Gaza all along, who have been calling out Israel and the Zionism, some of them are like now not even seeing that they're allowing themselves to kind of entertain this idea that it's happening, that it's a plausible solution when it absolutely isn't. And it also isn't a moral one either.
Yeah, it's one of the most despicable things I've ever seen. It's like we have the little video too. We'll play of the eventually Jamie with the soldier and the Indian speaking to him about the United States government. That's like I think I have that under the first part of the third section, and we'll play that. And that's the deplorableness of this situation. And you're right. I mean, most people out there are looking for confirmation bias, right? They really are. I mean, that's it takes a lot to look in the mirror and go, I was wrong about that. I have to reverse course and whatnot. And I've had, mud on my face plenty of times, right? Like, I looked into following RFK because I thought he'd be a logical point, mud on my face, look in the mirror, wipe it off and said I was wrong. Thought the Libertarian Party was an option to maybe get outside the two-party duopoly and get some power into the hands of the people. Didn't know a lot about the Libertarian Party. People told me about it. Mud on my face. It's wrong. It takes a lot to say that you're wrong, to take the information and kind of flip and reverse. If you find information that confirms your bias, more than likely you go with it. And the ruling class knows that. And, I know the argument is that, and Jamie even made the argument too as well in Cheese Slice. I don't want to hear you come in and talk about it because I'm not going to entertain that idea that he built this audience on TikTok and then he followed them on over and brought everybody over there. This guy has shown time and time again, whether it be Rage Against the War Machine, whether it be what happened the other day. I mean, this guy has tried to sell theories here and there before. I mean, he made up a tweet that said, can you imagine being a hardcore lefty and you missing this revolutionary time? He is an op. He is leading you in there. He is not a paid propaganda. This guy, in my mind, 1000%, like I said, I'll never have the smoking gun. We won't have it with elections. We'll only have theories. But for me, it's as plain as day. And the thing I want to know is, why I wanted to ask Derrick the question of where the money is originating from, because I think there's many actors out there, and I don't want to get you in trouble while you're there, right? But you've said before where you're at, it's not all rose-colored glasses out there like a lot of ideologues might think. Something's going on from the inside. I understand that some people have cracked, they might have this theory, Jackson Hinkle cracked the algorithms, right? Where he was taking people's tweets, literally changing one word, putting the tweet back up. But that tweet versus the original tweet would get thousands and thousands of views. I believe firmly that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of hanky-panky business going on from the inside, and these people are getting help from the inside getting elevated. At the end of the day, right, we always say that the information is the most, what's the word we should use? It's the most precious commodity right now. It's the most important thing to have. If you can control information, it's better than controlling the gold that's in this world or the currency. If you control information, you control everything. This is what narrative management is all about. You control the minds, right? The sovereignty over the minds. If you control the narrative, this is narrative management. There's help and boosting from within the inside. And like I said, we have to push for transparency to get to the bottom of it. Or, maybe hopefully take a look and see what they're doing over there at Odyssey, if they're going to be able to find a way to move forward and have live streaming and stuff. Panquake down the road, if it ever does come to something to fruition and gets over the hurdles. Because I think a lot of people don't understand that when you want to start a free source, a freedom of speech platform, there's going to be major hurdles put in your way, because at the end of the day, the ruling class wants to manage the narrative. That's the most important thing for them. And they've had these minions out there because, like I said, fam, gotta eat. It's the money.
Yeah, you gotta eat, but you can eat without selling your soul, and that's the thing. It's very few and far between who are willing to do that, and the intelligence has learned that they need to mimic us, especially when the anti-establishment narrative has become the popular narrative. It became popular to oppose is Israel. It became popular to stand against the NATO and stand and with Russia in a way. That's become another popular thing, to just continue pushing Russia this, Russia that, and continue pushing multipolarity. All of these things have become now sort of the alternative mainstream, but there's been very little nuance to that and little depth to having these discussions. And so I think we need to be careful that just because somebody seems like they're against the establishment, if there's no consistency in their beliefs, and if there is an inconsistency in how the algorithm works to their favor, while the rest of people are being shadow banned, censored, taken off, and completely completely ignored. For example, X will not give me a subscribe button. They refuse. They absolutely refuse to do that. I would never ask people to subscribe for my tweets, but they won't even allow me to monetize any of that. And they don't really give a reason. They just don't do it, and that's it. And so and I'm never in the algorithm. I'm always shadow banned. But I'm saying the same things, if not at a deeper level, than some of these same people are doing, but yet they get algorithmically boosted. And it's not that I'm jealous about it. It's that I'm pointing it out because it's a real thing. And it's just, that's not how this works. When they don't want a point of view, they make sure people don't see it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to amplify a point of view that is dangerous. In a medium owned by Elon Musk, who is DARPA boy, Department of Defense Palantir guy, they're not going to promote something that is going to be threatening to their status quo. So just on that alone, people, just on that alone, I want to move on, but if you have anything else to say.
No, I think we pointed out the importance of it, why we have to talk about these things. I mean, it's just, to me, it's really criminal what they're doing, and now with Donald Trump in there, a lot of people don't care about anti-establishment voices because he's going along with the establishment narrative. So a lot of those people who were once about free speech absolutist, right? Now they're gone. They wanted to choose which speech could be censored. And that's where we're at. We have a tribe like mentality, right? Tribe mentality, kind of like culture about us. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. But we can only just continue to do the work. I mean, we talk about ivermectin, fam, right? Like, holy cow. Like 3 months before the Dark Horse and Brett Weinstein, Zionist Supreme, along with Pierre Corey, who went on a show, who I love Pierre, but, before even they did the show, we were doing shows about ivermectin, and we had to go do it on Rockfin because we were not allowed to speak about it on the other platforms where other people were. It's truly criminal, and I wish we can get to the bottom of it. Same thing with elections. I'm not going to count on much movement, fam. Unfortunately, people are just eating the zombie pudding and just moving along and not caring about the important things. But all we can do is continue to point it out, fam.
And the last thing, Jamie, before I'm just going to move on from here, but the last thing, Jamie, I want to say, as somebody that studied social media and algorithmic growth with other people, the audiences don't translate. They don't just move like that at all.
One spot to the other.
Just because you have a lot of followers on X doesn't mean you'll have a lot of followers on Instagram or Facebook. That's not how they translate, especially as a newcomer. If you're a celebrity that has like a whole background, it's different. You're coming from like you're an actor or a musician or something. That's a little bit different. But if you're just nobody, they don't they don't have there's a specific phrase, but they just don't transfer over like that. That's not how it works. So
no, let's get to the USAID. I wanted to refill my coffee, so I need 30 seconds. Do we have a video or something to play 30 seconds into it? Nothing, Jamie? 30 seconds? Give me 30
Can you
seconds.
hear me?
Yeah. Give me 30 seconds. I'm going to go refill my coffee.
You can hear me? Okay.
Okay, we are back here at the Truth Wire. It's truth time, fam, and the truth we'll be speaking about is the USAID and the NED and what's exactly going on. I posed out 3 questions. What really is, or who really are the NED and USAID? What do they mean? Because I think a lot of people, at least the Democrats, are using this U.S. aid. This is people providing aid to the Congo and poor people in Ethiopia and places to thrive, and schools and all this stuff. They look at that, the USAID, as that. They don't go deep into it. I wish that Code Pink and the PSL would probably point out a little bit more who exactly USAID is, but they haven't. That's kind of telling. What are we seeing right now as they cancel this? What's exactly going on? Because we know on the right how they're praising this. And then what we need to do moving forward, really, to have some form of accountability and kind of push behind the narrative of these places closing down. In other words, I think highlighting the actual behavior of these NGOs that are working on behest of the CIA and the government. So please, let's start right into it. The USAID, and we'll answer those questions.
Right. So the USAID is the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. It's an independent agency that is operating under the U.S. government. So it's an arm, right? And it's supposed to be responsible for foreign aid to civilians in countries and promoting democracy and any sort of assistance like that. The issue is that that's not really how it functions. It really functions as an extension of the intelligence apparatus. It really functions as that. It's essentially a CIA cutout, right? And I am about to, if not today, early tomorrow, we'll release an article that breaks a lot of this down. But one of the things that I want to highlight, it's not just Republicans that are promoting this idea that this is a huge victory. It's literally most people online, on the left, on the right, on a lot of places. The only people that are upset and crying right now are Samantha Power, who was the former head of USAID, and Politico, Reuters, BBC, some of these journalists that got stripped funding. And we're going to talk about some of these. Some of them are very funny and not surprising at all that received funding from USAID. But one of the things I want to get into everybody's heads is I am not denying that the actual dismantling of USAID would be a winning deal. It would be amazing to actually dismantle USAID, which is an intelligence apparatus, which operates as part of the intelligence apparatus of the CIA. That would be great. But that's not what we're doing. We're essentially repurposing it within the State Department. And Marco Rubio, as posted there, is going to act as the director of USAID, and it's going to be into the State Department. Now, okay, what does that mean, Fiorella? Well, that essentially means that you're taking something that people could go, by the way, to the website and see how everything was being spent. They could see the breakdown of where this money was going, even if like it was something like, something dumb. Like a lot of that, it was actually available to the public before. What that means now is it's going to be centralized into the Department of Treasury under Elon Musk's Doge, and it's going to be fully open for the Fed and these technocratic oligarchs to get their hands on it and continue doing these operations in a more overt manner. But at the same time, we won't be able to see that. So yeah, of course, I like seeing liberals cry. Liberal tears are great. I like seeing that a lot of these people who weren't previously exposed to the fact that the USAID is an international CIA arm understand that it is. But a lot of the Trump people that are suddenly waking up to it completely ignored the years of this being used by their own party, by Donald Trump specifically in 2019 mostly, where he tripled the aid to Venezuela to $52 million when there were efforts to remove Maduro and install puppet Juan Guaido. They're not talking about that because to them, they woke up, Donald Trump came in, and suddenly now all of this stuff matters. It's the same thing with the Democrats who are crying now about immigration, but said absolutely nothing the entire time that Biden was in office. They didn't care about the immigration or the mass deportations that he was enacting. One of the things I want to point out is some of these specifics about the Trump administration. Pasta, did you have something to say before I continue?
I think I can hold on to it and make a comment after, because I think we're still talking in the same language. I think that, you are pointing out that, and we've said this the other day, and this is something that I just want to point out before you move forward that can be on people's mind is, Matt was trying to sell me the thought process that, at least this coming down in a way will get more people involved to think about what's going on and kind of, join in on the conversation about maybe, what this really was all about, what USAID was about, and it stopped some of the funding going directly to the people. But I think that you've hit it on the nose when you said it's just being repurposed. The behavior of regime change is not going to change. The regime change industrial complex is still alive and well. And even though USAID was closed down, Elon Musk and the now Secretary of State Marco Rubio had the same plan, right? The same objective. When they had the coup against Evo Morales, we had Rubio working the phone with the opposition, Elon Musk saying, "Well, coup who we want to coup." Now, they weren't guilty of getting a check from USAID, but they had the same objective. So that mechanism, as far as the regime change industrial complex, whether the NED go or USAID go, it's not going to change the behavior. It's not as if when they closed this down, fam, they said, we're also lifting, 50 sanctions from these 21 countries. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're changing the behavior. And there's a lot of Trump people out there who were trying to sell this as USAID making their own independent decisions on regime change, and then the United States just filling in the blank. It doesn't work that way. It never worked that way. In fact, Rubio said that, one of the problems with USAID is they want to be an independent NGO, and they're not listening to the government enough to do so. I mean, that was one of his arguments. So, I mean, I think people have to understand exactly what's going on. So please continue.
Right. So first of all, let's look at some of the good. Like I mentioned, you have Political, you have Reuters, you have BBC. All these people are very upset. And then you have some of these people, fam. I don't know if you saw this from Snow Himbo. This is, you see this, the Intercept Media Incorporated. Now this, I don't know if it was bigger. Available before. I'm not entirely sure. but I didn't see this before. Okay, I didn't know about, but we knew the Intercept was crap when it came to the Snowden files, when it came to a lot of the positions that they've taken in recent years. We know that they poise themselves as independent, or they get donations from people that are independent, blah, blah, blah. First of all, look at the amount of money that these people are making. 1. 2, look at the funds. These are all funds from the USAID grant flow. This is money that is funding these people, the Intercept. Now, why would a usually liberal or pro-democracy or status quo establishment type of arm of the intelligence apparatus want to fund the Intercept, which operates as a independent, questioning, anti-establishment type of news platform, right? That's how they operate, right? Why would they want to do that? Because they're not that. they're essentially what an Ian Carroll is, but on paper, they're narrative management, controlled opposition. We called it out a long time ago, but here's proof, that these people, that's what they are. And if I wrote I would never get hired by the Intercept, because I would never tone down my anti-imperialist rhetoric, and I would never I wouldn't pivot to what they want you to pivot, because even though they have unleashed some seemingly good type of investigations where they expose, okay, we expose this, what happens is the government gives them access. They choose what to give them access to, and then they publish that. It's still access journalism. It's not, just because it's not CNN or Fox News doesn't mean it's not access journalism. It is. And in fact, it's worse, because they are masquerading themselves as being actual anti-establishment when we very well know that they aren't. And so there's just more proof. And I'm glad people like them are getting exposed, because, a lot of people would say, oh, you're ridiculous. You think everybody is just not good enough for you. You're a purist. No, but this is what I'm talking about here, So on that end, I'm glad.
Divisive, Fiorella.
I'm super divisive.
I think that, when we look at, for instance, Ken Klippenstein's on that list, and so is obviously Ryan Grimjob. The thing about it is, what was very confusing is that what they're saying is stuff that people have said before them, said it a lot better, explained it, whatnot. And when we got into it with Ken Klippenstein, right, what he did to me was so weak-minded, right, when he doxed you. And he, that's your argument to go out and smear somebody? It made me immediately think, wow, these people are so weak-minded, and these are the people they are choosing. That's the ruling class, people they can control, people who, like that, right, that are just going to act on their impulses and do what they're told. So I mean, it's like the selection of the people who the insiders are picking is very specific, right? And there's a reason why we've been demonetized and shadow banned from the get-go. I mean, in all different ways, whether it be demonetization on YouTube, would be taken down on Twitter during the COVID era. And I mean, it's very obvious, because I think they understand, they know, the social engineers, the Tavistock scientists who've done the work for the ruling class know how to pick them, if you know what I mean, Finn. They know how to pick them. And it doesn't surprise me that Ken Klippenstein and Ryan Grimm are on that list. And it's a little telling, too, the money they're getting. We're working off peas over here. We're working off nothing, a shoestring budget. And these guys are getting kicked hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, they'll say whatever they want. That's why they're never to be trusted ever again. They're not journalists. They're propagandists.
And it also matters, too, in terms of what other journalists that so happen to be the majority of the actual anti-imperialist journalists I know make a fraction of that. And their coverage is far superior. It's better, and it's transparent and honest. Why? Well, because they have the eye of the what's actually going on the ground. They understand the mechanisms. They're living in the real world. They're not living in DC in a cozy establishment setting of the Beltway. They're actually part of the people, and so that's another layer to that I'm not even going to get into. But that is a particular layer. Now, I want to go into the bad about this, the possibilities of the reality that as to why Donald Trump, who embraced USAID, and Marco Rubio, who embraced USAID, now suddenly want to quote unquote dismantle it. And I think some of the reasons here I want to highlight to people who just think that this just happened a few days ago, that suddenly, Trump is the savior and he's doing all these things. Well, much of the aid that was done during Trump's own administration was done during Trump's administration in 2019. Voice of America, which is also, by the way, CIA media, put out that Trump tripled aid to Guaido to $52 million. And I said, those not asking themselves why Trump and co. woke up and decided to oppose this very agency that they've been using aren't right. Because how do you not question why now? I mean, it's 2025 now. We need to question why now. Why now are they doing this? Camilla, who is one of these journalists that's always on the ground, she highlighted this. Just a few years back, the former Trump administration was disturbing hundreds of millions of dollars towards destabilization and foreign coups through the State Department and USAID. We watched them do it to Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. So I want to play this video. It's just 1 minute and 13 seconds, and then we'll get something on that.
Elliot Abrams, our favorite, fam.
Congress has voted a fair amount of money to help the Democratic opposition in Venezuela. And we will be thinking of ways to use those funds and to try to get other countries to give political support, diplomatic support, financial support to the forces of freedom in Venezuela.
How much money and what is that being used for currently?
I'm a little reluctant to go into detail on that because I don't remember the exact numbers, the final number. But we have done an agreement with the legitimate government of Venezuela, a development agreement, and we are able to do things to help, for example, the free press in Venezuela, to help people keep publishing and to keep broadcasting. We have some funds that we can use for the National Assembly. So there are a variety of things. This is all being done through, or not all, mostly being done through AID, but also the Democracy and Human Rights Bureau here at the state.
Okay, there you go. So that was during Trump. And by the way, Abrams also worked on the Council of Foreign Relations. He worked for Ronald Reagan. He worked for Bush, for W. I mean, these are neocons, right? And they supported the USAID. So why is Trump suddenly saying, nope, we got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it. And there's this push to just say, oh, USAID is only Democrats. Only the Democrat globalist communists are upset about you. No, guys, there's so much more to this. Pasta.
Yeah. Well, I would also point out the fact that you have some people out there that we know, leftist, buying into this whole thing, saying, wow, Doge, what it's really doing. They don't want, people don't want Doge going into the Department of, what is it? What does the O stand for in Doge? Government efficiency, whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
so
Department of Government Efficiency. Right,
of government efficiency. They don't want Doge going in and auditing these people, but they're being very selective of what they're going to audit. Okay. If Doge is going to be auditing, waste within the government, are we going to audit the Pentagon? Maybe audit the Pentagon around the record-breaking contracts from Donald Trump when he was in president his first term. What about the CARES Act? You won't go and you won't audit that. That was the biggest transfer of wealth, upward transfer of wealth. There's still contracts that have been signed out of the CARES Act that are still relevant today, that are still going on to this day, but they won't do it because Donald Trump's name is on that bill. So really you're being duped, and they're only selectively, auditing certain things in which they are safe. in which they won't incriminate themselves right now. And they could look
Right.
at mostly Democrats. And this is the nefarious, when we're talking about people who could be ops in the mainstream media that have now, not the mainstream media, the social media apparatus, which we call the alternative mainstream media, is a guy named Mike Benz. Mike Benz out there, very suspect. We talked about it yesterday with another colonel out there, where he'll gain you some confidence and then he'll try to lead you down Donald Trump. It was a war against Donald Trump. Donald Trump's an outsider. We need to support him. He was going after the USAID money to what's his name's the daughter of
Ivanka?
No, the daughter of that was a congresswoman that just Cheney, Liz Cheney, right? So they were showing all the Liz, because that's another acceptable parameter, right? That's now a person who's went over to the Democrats, is supporting the Democrats. So they're very selective of who they're going after. That's why I love the fact that Camilla just pointed out, hey, when Elliot Abrams, by the way, who was around for Reagan, and the creation of the NED, which happened in 1983, was right smack in the middle of the Iran-Contra controversy during the Reagan administration, right? And once again, I refer to these USAIDs, these NEDs, as the PR firms, right? The public relation firms. They're supposed to package it up and give you a reason to manufacture consent to okay a regime change, the empire moving forward. And at the end of the day, everything we're talking about, that's the thing that's absent of this discussion is the empire changing its behavior? No, it's not. Just because they get rid of USAID and NED does not mean they're going to stop sanctioning countries, invading countries, and whatnot. I mean, and just to see the way that the mechanism works with all these people out there, it is amazing. I don't want to say we're blackpilled on this situation. We're just calling it out for what it really is. Don't be duped on it. Nothing has changed when it comes to empire.
Yeah, and I will also point out another thing about Rubio, if you want to pull that up, Jamie. And again, this is a continuity of power structure. This is not just pivoting to a different direction, and I'll talk about what that direction is. This is not getting rid of corruption, because the Trump administration is part of that. Trump's role is to build up the things that Biden destroyed, but build it up for the tech oligarchs. And that's where we're headed. So by the way, Marco Rubio actually went to Venezuela in 2019. Well, he went to the border between Venezuela and Colombia, and he was able to lead a delegation there using USAID itself. So the Trump administration isn't alien, and this was all to promote Juan Guaido. And he specifically said, it's hard to see human suffering up close. What's happening in Venezuela is very awful. And we can't get rid of the USAID, essentially saying that we can't do that because it's needed. Okay, it's needed to help Venezuelans out. And they use, of course, using the same thing that the Democrats have used, this idea of helping democracy, of spreading this humanitarian type of approach. And when people like Elon Musk try to make this a hyper-partisan issue, I have a problem with that, because he woke up and decided to support this, but he supported the coup in Bolivia. He supported so many other interventions in Argentina also recently. He's been absolutely supportive of all of that. So again, this is not me just wanting to rag on Trump. This is the reality of where we're going. And I want to bring up that this will be repurposed. And Pasta, I think you'll like this lady, this article by Catherine Austin Fitz. If you haven't read it, you should. She wrote this a couple days ago, and she said the Trump administration digital control grid coming together at high speed. And this is what I am looking at right now as well, in addition to everything we just said, because she talks about this highly strategic plan being in the planning stages for a while. We've been talking about this. So has, Whitney Webb and Derrick, they've been talking about this as well. And others who have been paying attention to where we're headed. And obviously the Real ID stuff is happening. I know that in the US, your license has to be a Real ID. If it's not, you need to go get it. then we're going to have the AI aspect of that come in with the digital ID of it. And she talks about what you mentioned with Derrick, the Stargate data centers, which involves building these data centers essentially enough to control a grid and all digital monetary systems. Then she talks about mRNA injections, which we won't get into right now because that's a whole other topic that we could be on forever. But this part I want to highlight, the was referring to. So this is the whole thing, the Doge takeover of hold on one second, just went away. If you scroll down to Jamie to the yeah, right here, a little bit lower. There you go. Up.
Social credit
Sorry,
system?
the Doge. No, a little bit up. Or yeah, there. Sorry,
Okay.
up is down, down is up. Okay, so the
central bankers.
Yeah, so the Doge takeover of the Treasury payment systems, and she talks about this. And she said that combined with the purge of the civil service, it's designed to end congressional control of fiscal flows and politics. This leaves the New York Fed and global central bankers in complete control of the fiscal line. As a practical matter, Musk and his team and whatever private companies and foreign governments are now sharing those data have replaced the executive branch and Congress in terms of control and operation of the fiscal side of government. So Musk is operating as the titular Doge in the Venetian sense. As Steve Bannon rightly points out, Musk and the Silicon Valley crew could not care less about the American people. We might as well start calling Musk President Musk. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that Musk is in control, because I don't think he is. But I think that Musk does want to attain control of this, because Musk has been pushing the Everything app. He has been pushing X becoming this powerful thing, expanding it. The reason he bought X is because he wants this ability to control all of these mechanisms. That's who Musk is. This is who Musk has always been. And his background tells you enough of it. I don't have to get into his background for you to know that working with Starlink in the Department of Defense and going to visit Bibi and working with the Zionists isn't already a red flag. You want this guy nowhere near the Treasury Department. And further, all of the people that attended Trump's inauguration include Jeff Bezos, billionaire, include Mark Zuckerberg, billionaire, Elon Musk, billionaire, and then you have Adelson, billionaire, Zionist. All of this is going to serve the purpose also of expanding the Greater Israel Project, expanding the Abraham Accords. This is why you're seeing the Gaza situation be tied directly into all of this. And so when people are cheering and saying, oh, Trump just dismantled a global intelligence sector. No, he didn't. He is just repurposing it. And I don't even think Trump knows what exactly he's doing. I think he's letting others handle it. But really, this is the intelligence apparatus reinventing itself so that we could focus on what Trump isn't Biden, like how Trump is different than Biden, and how Trump is going to be somebody that is going to come in a way that's going to build something different, try something new. And people are still very much wearing the rose-colored glasses about that and thinking that, you know, Donald Trump's going to do all these great things and there's going to be peace on earth. Listen, there will be, I fully believe there will be an end to the Ukraine war this year. I have my sources, and I also the president of Belarus has said that he believes that will happen. And when he says it, it's because it's coming. And the talks have intensified between Russia and the United States. They've been ongoing in the last few days. It's been getting to that point. And with that, I think what we're going to see is another layer of saying, oh my goodness, Trump ended the Ukraine war, when all of this has been in place before he even got into office, before the fall of Syria, before a lot of things. And what we're going to see, I think, is a pivot towards this idea of worshiping Donald Trump, this idea of completely ignoring what's actually happening behind the scenes, what this administration is actually doing. But I think he messed up with the whole Gaza situation, because I think that in itself, I think, did put a lot of people into saying, wait a minute, whoa, he just did this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, duh.
I don't know. I think there's more people out there, fam, that are saying, well, look at it, the Ian Carroll way. What is he supposed to do? I mean, he definitely does have his minions out there that, oh my God, I think his name was Lauren Lean. Oh my God, he's saving the children in Palestine. My heart is crying right now, as if he came in with his cape, the big T on it, and he's stopping the missiles and the bombing. Meanwhile, he was part of providing all the military gear to kill those children in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. He's been an ardent Zionist. We know where he's at. And what he said is just, wow. It's, hey, Elliot, we're still on Derrick. He's still got us going on his channel. So for all those people who are still watching on the Constant Resistance, this is the Truth Wire show. Thank you so much for joining in on over there. But I mean, yeah, fam, I think a lot of people looking for that confirmation bias. They want to find a reason. And even a lot of people who were, there's the Myron Gaines and the, what's his name, Sneakos, who are anti-Israel. Sneeko had a fight with Rabbi Shmuley on election night. I thought it was great. But at the end of the day, those people, and I think there's a lot that represent that kind of mentality, they'll still support and vote for Donald Trump, because they'll still play the lesser of two evil game, fam, moving forward. So,
yeah, it's an endless cycle.
It does suck. It does suck. Yeah. What else do we have in the doc for this section over here? Did you get everything out, or? No,
that's it. The Gaza thing I already mentioned, so we're good.
All right, so let's just finish up this last section. I know everybody's got to go, and we've been here for about an hour and a half, but Jamie, let's just play that video I have under section 3 real quick. This is what I see and I hear when we see Donald Trump, and like I said, he's literally talking out loud about ethnic cleansing, getting rid of people from that area, displacing them. He's literally talking about that out loud, and he's saying how horrible it is. Meanwhile, the guy who made it so horrible is right next to him.
The United States government is offering you a piece of land of your own.
We have our own land.
No, it's not yours. It's the U.S. government's.
Did they buy it?
No.
Did they trade for it?
No, it's not like that.
Then how can they own it?
He has a point.
We will give you everything you need if you will just submit to living on a reservation.
We need nothing from you.
You can depend on your country to take care of you.
You are not my country.
Mr. Durant, if we could just... Senator Crane has come here to offer your people a better way of life.
Better than what?
Better than what you have.
I like what I have.
Fam, that's what I see. And the thing that's not where people aren't taking from this whole situation, that was the type of language kind of, once again, taken and then put out for you to easily digest and see what's going on. Mm-hmm. What makes you think, ladies and gentlemen, those who are following Donald Trump, that long after he's gone, the same type of mentality, because we understand that what the empire does abroad will eventually come home, the chickens will come home to roost. What makes you think they won't have that same treatment with you, to move you or displace you or put you somewhere? You're nothing more than just a useless eater to them, right? They hate you. And the fact that you can buy into this, regardless of what people like Ian Carroll say, is a little mind-numbing, because this is an actual genocide taking place. We went over some of the discussions between Aaron Mate and Robert Barnes yesterday. Once again, I'm not going to agree or disagree with everything both these guys said, but in this particular argument, Robert Barnes making the case, well, who's the right of return open to? Is it open to the American Indians that are here, that we took their land? Is the right of return allowed to all the Jewish people who were dispelled from all these Muslim countries? Who exactly is allowed? They're making this argument about the right of return. All I'd like to say, and I think the easiest way I can put it, is that yeah, we can't go back and change the wars or change the slaughters or change the gentrifications that happened in history, right? What has happened. That's obvious. But aren't we as a human species, especially Americans who are supposed to be about human rights, decency, aren't we supposed to adjust from the times and say that this type of behavior shouldn't happen anymore? I mean, the fact that we're okaying this gentrification, and not only just okaying it, fam, we're funding it. It's our weapons, it's our money in our bombs. But the fact that we can have a mindset to think that this is okay, well, fam, it's a war. Boundaries are rewritten and redrawn during wars. You know, to the victor goes the spoils. How are we supposed to really look at this as an American person today who is supposed to learn from history that we're not learning right now?
Well, this happened in 2024, so I mean that argument doesn't really stick, right? It's a fit, you know, it's been going on for 15 months, so even before that. So what we're talking about here is it's apples and oranges. This was something that was preventable. It was in our time, and we didn't do anything about it. And a war requires two sides that are of equal force and have both decided to engage in a specific war, a real war. This was a genocide. It wasn't fair because you have the United States, you have all of NATO, you have the UK, all backing Israel, and Palestinians basically had themselves, and yeah, forces of the resistance, but the resistance isn't even recognized by the majority of governments around the world beyond the collective West. So, you know, when you're talking about war and spoils and all of that, that doesn't even apply, because in war and spoils, you don't go necessarily around killing civilians on purpose. You have what they call collateral damage, and I hate this term, but you have that. You have sometimes civilian casualties. But this isn't something that you purposely go out and do to try to genocide people, except the United States, when they didn't, you know, they knew that Japan was going to back down, but they lied and got us to drop the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is another layer of having been able to prevent things. So for me, it's like, that is our legacy on Pasta. I think that's the truth. That is our legacy of being able to sacrifice people for whatever X objective that we need. It's not, you know, that's what it means to be an American. I mean, in near history, what we're talking about, but we should be better. And we're not. We're just kind of going back to that same type of mentality. Well, you know, what else is the solution then? You don't have a solution. This is all it's always going to be this way. So that to me is more negative. It's more black-pilled than anything, because you're not giving solutions. We're saying the solution is to go away from that. You know, they try to call us black-pilled, but really the people who are pessimistic and nihilist are the people that don't want you to change the problems that exist, and that's done by design, because if they can get away with calling us pessimistic or black-pilled and all of these things, then they can appear to be the ones with the solutions, when really their solution is to do the same thing we've been doing this entire time.
Well, I happen to think that, fam, that if I happen to feel that if in fact, sorry, I happen to think that if in fact there was people understood the truth with exactly what was going on, and they weren't being lied to and believed the lies, that they wouldn't want this. We showed, and this is, I'm talking about Trump people who supported and voted for Trump. Yeah, there's a small majority of them screaming, and those especially within the alternative mainstream media in the independent world, who are screaming that it's okay, you know, and trying to justify it. But we showed in one of the videos, one of the shows we did, where on True Social, Donald Trump put out there, you know, what country is the greatest threat? China, Iran, Russia. You know, people said no, Israel, right? Like his own people pointed out the fact that they don't like what's going on. So what did they do shortly after that? They had Donald Trump share a tweet from Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs complaining about Netanyahu. Netanyahu canceled his trip. We had people say that Donald Trump should have won a Nobel Peace Prize for the ceasefire, and that he was putting Netanyahu on a leash. And look what just happened. They gave people a little bit of pause. They manufactured consent by acting like Donald Trump was trying to control the situation. And they're using that same narrative right now when we hear this clip. Jamie, I don't want to play I don't want to read the tweet. I want to just play the clip of Donald Trump here when he says that. I mean, people are saying, well, he's taking it out of Israel's hands. This is 5D chess, fam. He's taking it out of Israel's hands and he's putting it in our hands. Therefore, they can't do any more damage. And now we'll act as the actual peacekeepers here because it's really the only way to stop the killing. Let's take a listen to what Donald Trump said here once again. I think this is one of the grossest things in history.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's more demolition site. This is
pause. Fam, is that true? Is it because they have no other alternative, or do they want to go back because it's their homeland?
Right.
Continue, Jamie.
It's just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living
turned it into
under
that.
fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Well, actually, it's 78 years, Donald Trump. It's not 100 years yet since Israel came in there and gentrified the area and took a lot of people out of their homes by bayonet and flamethrower and put them in the Gaza Strip. So I think you need to get your numbers right. But I mean, holy cow, fam, just hearing that stuff. And then when people ask, will Palestinians have the right of return? Who's going to live there? It's going to be international. People from all around the world, fam, are going to come to Trump Towers in Gaza, where I'm building it all with my son-in-law, Jared Kushner. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and the fact
wow.
he says we're going to own it just like that. We can just, because that is our mentality. We can just own whatever we want. But we're going to make it beautiful. So you should be thankful because you don't want to go back there. But he doesn't talk about what caused that to look like that. What caused the destruction in Gaza, because Bibi Netanyahu is right there. He's standing right there. And this entire time, the Trump Zionists, right? You had a bunch of them, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, all these people saying, Hamas did this all. If Hamas hadn't done this, then, Israel's just defending itself. No, they're not killing civilians. So if Israel is just defending itself and they didn't kill civilians, why the hell is there nothing left in Gaza for people to go back to? So you can't have it both ways. This is, again, they're saying one thing, now they're flipping on another thing, and suddenly now we're not talking about what led to Gaza being like this. It just magically happened to look like this, and Palestinians don't have a right of return. Now it's going to be owned by a bunch of elites, mostly Israelis. Let's be real. It's not like Netanyahu's going to allow Trump to just come in and take it for the U.S. without a benefit to Israel, because again, the United States and Israel are the great Satan and little Satan. Okay, they're working hand in hand. As Kennedy said, Israel's the U.S. bulwark in the Middle East. And so Donald Trump told Bibi before he got into office that he would expand the Abraham Accords and that he would support Israel if there was to be a breach in the ceasefire, and he would support Israel in terms of expanding Israel. And they're trying to send all of these Palestinians to just saying, all right, just take them. And even Saudi Arabia, they're trying to push Saudi Arabia to take them. And the problem is, as bad as Saudi Arabia is, they're not going to fold on the Palestinian issue, at least not for a while, because the majority of Saudi Arabians, as much as they may not necessarily be with the resistance, are against the expelling of Palestinians. They are actually supportive of the Palestinian cause. So therein lies the quandary, but don't worry, don't put it past the U.S. to continue pushing that. So it's not just awful and disgusting and immoral. what, I expect it from Donald Trump. I expected it the moment the ceasefire happened. We called it out. We said this was going to lead to the eventual takeover of the West Bank and the eventual takeover of Gaza. We knew this was going to happen. We said it, but it's not. And I hate being right about this stuff because I wish that Donald Trump was a good guy and he was going to come in and try to challenge the status quo. But that's not how the U.S. government works. He's fulfilling his role, and what we're seeing here is a foreign policy that's going to shift, pivot towards the greater Israel, pivot against Iran for isolating China away from Russia and isolating China away, and is going to try to normalize relations with all the other areas of resistance. And Iran as well is vulnerable now. There's so much going on that people aren't paying attention to that would require another episode for me to try to explain, but it's very, very, very bad, actually.
And all the time too, as well. The title of this particular episode too, as well. Usher in the technocratic state. All the track and trace policies. Catherine Austin Fitts, was part of that alliance. And I want to thank Derrick Broze for coming on today and giving us an open invitation. I have always looked at us as part of the alliance, right? I think it was very interesting. We occupy this lane where we are from the left. We're old school Democrats who, had the pipe dream of trying to reorganize or take over the Democratic Party and whatnot. And we fell on our face. But, we were kind of, we were open to seeing a lot of things, I think, because we thought independently. COVID, we didn't fall for it, whatnot, because we understood the players behind it. And I think if you understand the players behind it, and that's what we highlighted a lot in the show today, you'll understand that there's no good intentions there, right? There's an objective. They're trying to obtain it. This is the fourth industrial revolution. This is the technocratic state. And that's what they're trying to usher us into. And Donald Trump is simply just playing a part. And fam, just to close out the show too as well, I think the people who are living in Gaza, I think that the reason why they can come to this is, it's not going to be given over to the United States, but there are a lot of people who fund Donald Trump, Marion Adelson, and everybody talks about 100 million. No, what about in 2020? What about in 2016? You're talking about 250 million, close 260 million, close to 300 million that Marion Adelson's checkbook, whether Sheldon was alive at one point, that have been signed over to Donald Trump. So there's a lot of Zionists within the United States that can also live in Gaza, and Donald Trump appeases them, and Netanyahu appeases his crowd. That's what's going on. It's a disgusting situation. And anybody who supported or voted Donald Trump, I think you need to honestly reassess that decision and come to a conclusion that you've been played completely, because he is ushering in the greater Zionist project, among other things, the technocratic state. And the emotional gains that you've given, those things that you see him playing the lesser of two evil, they were meant. That's by design. The Democrats played their part, just got batshit crazy over independent cultural issues, really got away from class, got away from foreign policy. In fact, became an arm of the foreign policy apparatus, being pro-Ukrainian in the Kyiv regime. This is one mechanism working against us, ladies and gentlemen. And until we recognize that one mechanism working against us, we're going to be in the dumps for quite some time, right? So we have to expose from the beginning of the show, calling out those people like the Ian Carrolls and the Russell Brands and where they are today, because they have an agenda, and that agenda is to screw you. So anyways, that's all I got.
Yeah, exactly. And until we get out of that way of thinking, it's just going to be repeating on the endless cycle of things. So we hope that we get you thinking outside of the endless hamster wheel that everybody seems to be operating on. I mean, it's crazy, like the level of just worshiping of these administration. And again, it's not like we're Biden supporters. It's not like we're remotely Sanders or AOC or anybody. We are done with everybody, period. They all suck. And that's the thing. I'm not supporting third party either, because the mechanisms aren't there for any of this. This is that you can't reform this at this point. And I think people are hoping that something works, but this is not how you're going to change things by going back to the same system that created the problem in the first place. And we always talk about this. So Yeah.
Let's
so
we have some paid we have some
Okay.
Rockfin stuff, right, Jamie? Can we maybe put up this is from Matt Weinglass. So this is a Rumble Rant question,
Thank
everything.
you.
Matt Weinglass has taken his that's Matthew and Gaiataya. What is that? That wine is it Weinglass? I think it is. I think that's Matthew Weinglass. WNG, right? For $20, question everything. Matt D took his truth pill for the Truth Wire. What do we got? Rockfin TD, $100. Look at that. Thank you, Pasta, Fee, Jeremy, Gloria, and Jamie for carrying on all the words, for all the very valuable insights you tirelessly provide. Bless you. TD, thank you so much, too, as well. I don't know what's going on with Rockfin, if they're about to fold, if they're going to fold, or if they're going to keep going. But I'll make sure that we get that money. We've been getting a few bucks from Rockfin here and there, not much, but thank you guys for supporting us there on Rockfin. At one point, they were our life raft when we got demonetized from YouTube. Remember, Rumble wasn't even around and the mechanism wasn't even there yet. So thank you to Rockfin and thank you to TD for leaving that love on Rockfin. It really does help. Every single penny helps right now. We don't have that Elon Musk money, that Zionist money.
Or that intercept money.
That intercept money that we show, we don't get any of that. We don't even get a piece of that. Can you imagine what we do? And look what we do. I mean, what we've been able to do, for me, it's still an honor and a pleasure to sit next to Fiorella and do this show together. Some of the stuff we've been able to do, but we've been able to do it, no ASID money. Yes, Jamie, no ASID. But we've been able to do it with your money and your help and you getting us on the ground to cover those stories. And I look forward to continuing to do that for the rest of my life. I hope I get it like Larry King until the day I croak. Keep doing this work because it is important to me. And I can't thank you guys enough. There's a lot of people there today on this thread who've been supporting us and making some great comments out there. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am humbled by your love and your support. Is that it, Jamie? All right, that's it. It was truth time here on the Truth Wire. Monday, we'll be back. Fam, I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. We got a lot of things going on. I do my show on Wednesdays on WBAI Drive Time. It's been a lot of fun. People are calling in. You guys are going to want to see that show. I have a Facebook page now for that because I think WBAI and the Pacifica radio stations, they're more inclined to have a Facebook than a Twitter. So, I do have a Facebook over there. Hopefully, once again, what's his name? We were sanctioned on that. We were freaking demonetized on that channels too as well. Shadow ban. The Mark Zuckerbergs, but I do have a Facebook, and what I want to do is I want to have the hour show and then drag people on over after. I know it's almost impossible to do so, especially over there on the radio because those are radio listeners, but come check it out. It's called Drive Time Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Me and Fam will be doing the Truth Wires on Mondays and Fridays around 12:30 Eastern. Of course, don't forget about the Homeless Left. He does his shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays around 3 p.m. Eastern. So during the week, you can get a little bit of all of us here and there. If it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. This was the Truth Wire. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella. Keep looking out for my Substack. Vanessa Bealey interviewed me, and she's having me on more often. We're going to try to get together and discuss just certain topics a little bit more. It's only audio. It's not video. She doesn't do video, I think, on her Substack, but it's very easy to listen to. And for some reason, audio is just I don't know. I actually like it a lot. So yeah, check that out.
Thank you to Jamie Cheese Slice on the ones and twos, and a big love to Johnny Tsunami, who's been doing all my monologue videos on my Twitter at YoPasta. Go check them out. I always pin them. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll forgive him for his bad take on Ian Carroll, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
We're out.